I never know how to open these. This is kind of like one of my pet peeves is like, how do you open a video?
You could open it like a 90s trailer.
Open it like a 90s trailer?
Yeah. Come along with us for an adventure into this world or whatever, or this story, or, you know, whatever. The 90s video guide.
Join us on a journey into a galaxy of terror.
Galaxy of Terror.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode on this channel. This is super exciting for me. It has been over a year hiatus. I've been away, and we're starting a new chapter, which is exciting. So one of the new things, of course, that you can clearly tell, we have a new set. And it's exciting for two reasons. One, it looks nice, and so that's great. But the other thing is that it's closer to home. The most recent set I've been using previously, it's been about an hour away from home, which means I have to do everything by myself, and it's kind of lonely. But now we have this wonderful, wonderful feature of this set, which is a new producer. So Ren is over here. She's not on camera. She'll be behind camera for me today, which is going to be great. Say hi, Ren.
Hi.
Hello. Ren is my wife. She's put up with me for a good, long, almost decade.
The best part about this set is I got it for $100.
Don't tell people that. This is a top dollar set. So Galaxy of Terror, we just kind of started watching this one on a whim. It was available on Amazon Prime, and I actually confused it with a different movie that I'd seen previously. It's the one that has the robot that is all over Fallout. I don't know if you remember that one.
You didn't tell me that you hadn't seen this whole time. I figured that you'd already seen it.
No, so originally I thought I had, and then we started it up and I was like, I have no idea what this is. So Galaxy of Terror, so what is it exactly? Let's talk about just kind of the 50,000 foot view of what this is. And this is a B movie, okay? So if you don't know what that means, right? It's kind of a term it gets thrown around a lot. It's kind of a loose term. It is descriptive of both the aesthetic of the film, so that's like the style of what the movie is, and it's also how it was marketed, how it was brought to market. If you were having a double feature at the movie theater, you would have sort of your premiere, your first film, and then you'd have this one as your second. And this is an interesting little Bible reference. We have the wedding, right? And Jesus turns the water into wine, and then the guests say, wow, like usually you save like the really terrible wine for the end of the wedding when people are already drunk, but you brought the best wine forward. Well, this is kind of what this movie is the terrible wine that comes after the good wine. So little Bible thing just to throw out there. I thought that was a fun little analogy. So Galaxy of Terror is a 1981 film that was released by New World Pictures. Okay, so what makes it interesting, sort of the star of the movie really is Roger Corman. Now, if you don't know who Roger Corman is, don't feel too bad because, you know, he's not necessarily a household name, but he was incredibly influential on filmmaking, especially coming out of the 80s into the 90s and early 2000s. He was a hugely influential person. People are just so confused. Like, I didn't know he had a lisp. Now, Roger Corman was a hugely influential person, and he's got, I think it's over 500 titles to his name. So he was producing a ton of stuff. What's really fascinating about him is that he figured out sort of this formula for B movies, okay? He figured out that if he combined basically four elements together, that he'd be able to make a film that would make him money. So the first thing is he uses new and enthusiastic talent. Okay, so he pulls people out of film school. He gets people that have only had one or two features. They're enthusiastic enough to make do with the low budget that he provides. So that's the second thing, is the low budget. All these are low budget films. The third thing is he bases his films off of something else. Okay, so this movie is not original. It is probably one of 2 or 3 dozen different Alien ripoffs. But then you have another thing, which is the speed of production. So when this movie comes out, it comes out quickly. They film it very fast. They edit it quick. They turn it around quickly. And so when you kind of combine all that stuff together, that formula, you have a very capitalist-friendly film. Because the budget's so low, as long as it is even remotely commercially successful, it's going to make its money back and then some. So he was able to produce a lot of films that were very commercially successful, or at least moderately commercially successful, and was able to make quite a bit of money. But what is key with Roger Corman is not necessarily his success in the financial realm, but it is with his capability to work with talent. There are a lot of people that came out of the 90s and early 2000s, and they became the new wave of cinema, and many of them worked on a Roger Corman film because he gave them their first shot. So most notably with this film, Galaxy of Terror, we have a really standout name that comes out of this film, and that would be James Cameron. So James Cameron was the art director in this film. He also worked as a second unit director for part of the production, which also sort of opened the door for him to come back and do Aliens, which is kind of fun because you have Alien, which inspired Galaxy of Terror, which is not a great Alien ripoff, and then you have Aliens, which I would argue is just as good as the original Alien. I don't know. It's a weird little link. And then if you watch Galaxy of Terror versus Aliens, plural with the S, there's a lot of similarities. We're not going to go into those today. It's just an interesting sort of touch point connection. They all connected together.
Who are you? What are you doing at my station?
All right, so what happens in the movie? From the top, right, the 50,000 foot view, this is a movie about a rescue mission gone wrong. So we open it up and we have a hag who's sort of narrating for us, and she's kind of leading us into the story. I don't know why we have her per se. She doesn't really do a whole lot for us.
I am Mitri.
She narrates. She plays sort of a weird chess game with the man with a red head. His name is Planet Master, which is very 80s. Planet Master is sort of a ruler of sorts. We aren't entirely sure what his role is, but we know he's very powerful and he has a red head. And he sort of calls a rescue mission in order to go save the crew of a downed vessel. We immediately cut to, and then we're kind of following the crew. So we learn about who the crew are. They go on this mission, and there's of course a twist at the end, which we'll talk about here in a bit. But that's sort of the long and short of it. They go on this rescue mission, and it goes awry, of course, and they start getting picked off one by one, sort of Alien style.
The story itself is not good, but it definitely had some beats that I think they should have pushed a little farther.
Do tell.
Well, like with the weird captain with all her like trauma. And then they keep on bringing up, oh, the Hesperus, And then we never learn. Like they bring it up probably 5 or 6 times. And then she dies. Spoiler alert, she dies. We never learn about anything else about the Hesperus except for that she's this poor traumatized woman who is kind of psychotic and probably should be in therapy and should definitely not be piloting a ship.
So let's start with that. Let's talk about our cast of characters, because I think they're probably, it's the backbone of this movie is our characters that we line up and then we knock them down like bowling pins.
They're a pretty diverse cast.
There's a pretty diverse cast of characters. So we started with the captain. So when we open up with the captain, she's kind of surly. So we have Commander Ilvar. So Commander Ilvar is messing around on her workstation, doing who knows what. He may be snooping for the Planet Master. We're not entirely sure what he's doing. But then she kind of like nags at him. And then she immediately sort of taking off without giving the crew a fair warning.
Endangering the entire crew.
She endangers the entire crew without giving them a warning.
By saying you have like 10 seconds to get in your seat.
She gives them 30 seconds to get in their seats, and then she blasts off. The motivation for this is that she's tough as nails. She's a hard ass. She wants to prove it and prove that she's like the best one on this mission and that she doesn't care about anybody else, right? Okay, and so you would think, okay, this is, the one time that's probably enough, but she does it again. So she blasts us off, and then we have a moment where Commander Ilvar brings up the PTSD, and you see it in her face, and she has a flashback. And then she's like, all right, well, let's jump to hyperspace. And she gives everyone 10 seconds to sit down again and buckle up because she's jumping to hyperspace, again endangering the crew. And so at that point, I kind of just I don't like her. I don't think anyone likes her at that point. You get lost. You're like, what?
It's like, how are you in charge?
Why are you in charge of this ship?
Like, this was my argument when I was watching the movie, was like, she's a very competent pilot. She obviously knows her craft. Yes. She knows what it's capable of, and she knows what she can do with it.
Which is proven immediately after when she saves the ship.
She's very, very good.
Yes.
So, excellent pilot, terrible captain. Why is she in charge?
Well, so
she's in charge of the ship. I know the guy's in charge of the
mission. Yeah. See, so in the beginning, the Planet Master says he's going to hand select the crew. So there's already a conspiracy involved. It's like, why is he hand selecting the crew? And then he also says, don't tell the crew that I'm hand selecting them. There's something going on there that we don't know about quite yet. There's some suspicion going on. So that's the first. So that's Captain Trantor. I didn't have a nickname for her, but I have a nickname for just about everybody else.
Anyone ever even calls her that?
I think they just call her Trantor or Captain.
Yeah.
Just one or the other. So Captain Trantor, so that's the first gal. Here's an interesting thing, though. She plays Sarah Palmer in Twin Peaks.
Oh.
This gal's got a whole lot of credits to her name, and she's still working. So she's still a working actress today, which is really cool. She also has an uncredited extra in Moonlighting, season 5. So
I've never made it to season 5.
We've not made it to season 5, but we'll get there. We're working through Moonlighting right now. So when they blast off, I just want to briefly mention, I really like the wormhole effect when they're jumping into the hyper jump, hyperspace, whatever. I like the wormhole effect. It's not quite 2001: A Space Odyssey, but nothing ever is really.
Do you think that's credited to James Cameron?
Oh, I think it was James Cameron all the way. I also really like the viewport set where we're in the ship, we're looking through the viewport. Most of the ships looks pretty cheap. I mean, you have like, you know, the switchers and stuff. It just looks like broadcast equipment. It looks kind of cheap, but like just the set shot where you're looking out and you see the viewport and the planet coming through looks great. I really like that a lot. So as soon as she makes the hyper jump, they get hit by a tractor beam, very Star Trek-esque. So some sort of force field or something grabs them, starts pulling them down onto the planet. And so Captain Trantor, who has risked the crew's lives twice, once by blasting off, once by hyperjumping. She now has to save the crew from the tractor beam. So she manages to save the ship. Captain Trantor manages to save the ship. They land, and then we have the folks go out and they're starting to look around. So they're initiating the mission. Let me ask you this: those headlight backpacks, did they serve any other purpose than just being headlights?
They never used them for anything else. And, might I add, were very poorly securely fastened. I mean, they fell right off. That one guy who falls down the mountain.
Yeah, falls down the mountain.
Like, his backpack goes first. Absolutely not proper equipment for whatever they're doing.
All right, so the crew checks out the vessel, and then we have our first sort of, not really a jump scare. I guess it is a jump scare. We have a corpse that falls from the rafters, which is classic, of course, the classic corpse from the rafters thing. Very cool. So at this point, we have our crazy security guy. I assume he's security. We don't really talk. He's some sort of commander, military, whatever. He's the one with the gun, and he's, got the nose and the hair. He does this thing throughout this movie, which drove us crazy. He incinerates most of the bodies he comes across.
Yeah, they don't even look at them.
So
they don't even ascertain, they don't even check and make sure that they're actually dead. Like, they don't do a vitals check or anything. They're just like, oh, there's a body.
Well, so like,
zap.
Well, so like you have this crew is coming, this team is coming to figure out what happened to this other vessel. Okay, they're trying to figure out, okay, what happened to the crew? Why is this vessel crashed? Why we haven't heard anybody calling out for help? And so instead of investigating and going, okay, how did this person die? They just zap them. They just totally incinerate them. This is a common trend in this film. And it is so common, this happens so often, where they just randomly incinerate bodies that they hang a lantern on it. And so they say, oh, I wish I had it in me to just incinerate people left and right like you do.
Sometimes I wish I was like Balon. See him and shoot him.
They find a body, they zap it. They find a body, they zap it. Somebody dies, they zap them. The only exception for this is, and this is where it gets a little weird in the story, because the only exception for this is when Balon's like, what do you got in the bag? And they have a body in the bag that they've taken from the vessel. Other people grab the body, right? We never see this body, but he says, oh, we got to do an autopsy on it. So they take the body onto the ship, presumably. When they do this...
Well, we do see them doing the autopsy because they did that awful...
Well, here's the thing. That wasn't the body we took off the ship. That was their crew member who dies. I rewatched it. Yeah.
Oh, the young guy, the guy who stayed on the ship even though he was terrified the whole time.
So that's what I want to talk about next. Okay, so we talked about security guy, but then we have Kaz. So Kaz is our blonde scaredy cat character. And he has a very alien-esque scene where he's running from some unseen terror that is on this vessel. We don't exactly know what's going on with him. We see a little glimpses of a stop motion monster, and then everyone else leaves the ship even though he's having some sort of like panic attack
They're
looking
like,
thing, he's like freaking
all right,
out.
well, it's time to go. Let's all go.
And everyone leaves him behind. He gets attacked by the monster that had been plaguing him. There's a terrible sound effect here. One of two terrible sound effects in this movie. There's probably more, but I'm going to point out this one. It's a whipping sound. It sounds like a really bad stock whip sound effect. I don't even think we really needed it here. Yeah, I was like, whoosh, whoosh. We'll play it here. We don't have to listen to me to make the sound. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. And so then he dies. And then what happens is so baffling to me. We immediately cut out of this and into a conversation between Mustache Hero and the cook.
If it weren't so gruesome, it'd be fascinating.
And completely casual. Like it's so jarring to see this horrible thing happen to this guy. And then, we're talking about it happening and it's just completely casual. It's funny. And I don't know if it's meant to be funny.
If it weren't so gruesome, it'd be fascinating.
Some big ass rats we got here.
So then they walk in, they talk about this guy and is like, yeah, Cause died. Oh, we should talk about Betty Boop real quick. She's
the Big Eyes?
She's Eyes.
Big Eyes?
Okay, Eyes is Betty Boop.
I would just call her Big Eyes because, good Lord, the eyes on that girl.
So Big Eyes has a special power that we learned about a little earlier. She's psychic or, psychic sensitive. I don't know, something like that.
She feels
cell connections, life force. So when we have this kind of get together, the crew is talking about their experience, like looking around this vessel, and she's like, yeah, Cause was there and then he wasn't there anymore, and this force was there and then it wasn't. I don't know, man. And she's constantly trying to prove herself to
the guy,
security guy,
yeah,
Balor, whatever he is.
Balin.
Balin. So she's trying to prove it. She's like, I'm not wrong. And it's just the worst delivery. But I will say this is kind of a positive for this scene. The best gore effect was in this scene by far. We have this, the autopsy. So they're looking at Cause's body. And he was upside down on the autopsy table. So the back of his head is up. So they're looking at the back of his head. And so so we're seeing everything through this view, this viewfinder in the ship. So it's like, it gives us an element of separation, gives us one level of separation away from what is going on. And it's a really jarring effect. You can see the back of his head open and it's pretty gross. And it's the only convincing effect probably gore-wise in the movie. I think the rest of it's kind of cheap, but that got me. I had to look away. It's pretty gross. So they scan the nearby, some surrounding area. The scan picks up what appears to be some sort of interference. So they deduce that maybe the tractor beam or the force field, whatever it is that pulled them down to Earth or pulled them down to the planet, is somewhere over here in Sector 49. So they decide, okay, we need to go back out and go check this out because whatever that is probably pulled this other ship down as well as us. They don't say this explicitly in this scene, but I think it's important to know they cannot leave the planet without sort of turning off the tractor beam a la Star Wars. They don't say that, but that's kind of what's implied here, is that in order to get off the planet and actually leave this place, they need to turn off the tractor beam. So anyways, they sort of go out on their own. This is our first moment here where we figure out that Commander Ilvar is probably not suited for this mission. He has issues deciding whether or not to continue forward into what is surely dangerous territory. He hesitates, and that's sort of his one sort of character thing here.
Yeah, until he gets to that pit.
Well, and see, so he's sort of a one-note guy. He hesitates. They climb up the mountain, so they split off. They have two different groups. They split. Commander Ilvar, Mustache Man, and Christine Chapel. The three of them go together, and they find what is like a discount H.R. Geiger hole. Anyway, so Commander Ilvar finds courage, and then he goes down into the hole. I think it's supposed to be self-sacrificing, and it doesn't really mean anything. He's just kind of a one-note sort of a guy. And then he immediately gets killed. So I don't really want to keep like ragging on the bad sound effects in this movie. But with the tentacles coming out, just the squishing sound effects that they use is horrible. It's just, it's terrible. Brings you right out of the movie. It could have been like a genuinely, scary moment, or at least a thrilling moment. I mean, I realize Ben Burt was probably not available for this particular film, but anyways, our guy dies. He gets eaten by a tentacle monster, and then we have the remaining crew are aboard the vessel, and the three of them are kind of milling about. We have a couple of important details here that I think is kind of valuable to the story. One is Captain Trantor throws a little shade towards the cook and says that she suspects he is a spy for the Planet Master to keep an eye on the mission, to make sure the mission's going well. Also, we have another Captain Trantor PTSD flashback that we don't see. I do want to mention this, though, before we have kind of a funny little moment. I don't want to say funny. That's not quite the right word. We do have moments.
Quirky.
Okay, so our crew kind of comes back together, and they're in front of this gate, this H.R. Geiger gate, and it starts opening, and then for whatever reason, our discount Dave Bautista throws a crystal star or two to keep the gate open. Do you recall this? No, keep it closed.
Keep it closed.
Yeah, keep it closed.
He throws a star to keep it closed.
I'm still not entirely sure why he did that because they walk through it. Yeah, they go in there anyways. Anyways, it's just another thing. But there is this moment there where Christine Chapel is talking about Commander Ilvar. There was nothing there. He was just gone. All we can see was just like the holes where the worms were. I hate worms, which is of course a little foreshadowing for the way she goes. Anyways, we'll just skip right on there. Okay, so skinny Dave Bautista with his crystals, right? So he's depressed about the crystals. He's a religious feller. He decides not to take a gun. So this is like some part of some sort of religious thing for him that he has to carry the crystals, and that's the only weapon he takes. Kind of sulks after the crystals were destroyed, rather needlessly, in my opinion. But I would say I think he's the coolest looking character in this movie.
He's just the strong, silent type. He's got a shaved head.
He's just got a cool face. I don't know. He just looks cool.
He does look cool. I think he's definitely got a look. But as we said when we were watching the movie, he had two roles. He was either going to be like the strong, silent type, or he was going to be the military, unhinged one.
Right. Yeah.
Which he turned out to be kind of both. He was basically like that purple guy from the purplish reddish guy from Guardians of the Galaxy. It's a trope.
That guy's name is Dave Bautista.
I meant like the character. He's not purplish reddish in real life.
No, I just think it's funny that you made that. Anyways, moving on. So he dies by... It's one of the weirdest moments of the movie.
Live by the crystals, die by the crystals. Right. So after his crystals break in the door, he's like basically like, I'm just going to stand here and die. And everybody else is like, are you okay? And he's like, I'm just gonna stand here all by myself. And then they're all like, okay, we're gonna go on. And then they like leave. And he's just standing there. And then magically, his crystals come back all together.
Yes.
To murder him.
Yes, the crystals return. They murder him, cut off his arm. Okay, so here's where we get kind of a little Ken Russell-y. I would say Ken Russell-y. Maybe a little David Lynch absurd. So our psychic lady, Big Eyes, she feels like, oh, there's something wrong back at the gate entrance. We need to send somebody over. They send Christine Chapel over. So she goes by herself. She finds the severed arm, right? We have this interesting sequence there where we have a maggot that is on the arm that starts to transform and take on a new life, and then grows into a giant worm monster critter. We get to the point where we understand why the movie exists. We have a single scene.
Well, I don't know why the movie exists. I would definitely go to why the movie sells.
Okay.
Because you know what they say.
So here's insect sex sells. Okay, so we're going to talk about the legendary is not the right word, the infamous maggot sequence. It's the singular reason why this movie has sold and why it's viable. So here's what's kind of interesting about this scene. So what happens here is Christine Chapel, her greatest fear. This is where that twist, that sort of twist at the end, doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because I'm not entirely sure. You could maybe say this is a Freudian fear. It doesn't exactly make a whole lot of sense. But anyway, so her monster that gets her at the end is a giant maggot, and it has its way with her, which is probably the most shocking part of the movie. And it's also the part of the movie that kind of stands out from everything else. Everything else feels very standard and, maybe a little strange with the crystal guy, but everyone else is like, typical alien-esque stuff. And this one, I think, takes it a large step further than everything else.
Further necessarily. It's just like, I don't know, it feels like cheap dime store novel stuff.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I think. It's like you buy the novel because it's got the naked lady on the front.
Right.
Or whatever.
Well, and it's on the poster too.
Yeah, it's on the poster too.
We gotta sell it.
It's like, come see this movie, you'll see a naked lady.
Right. Okay, so the thing about this scene that I think is super interesting is that nobody wanted this scene initially. So Roger Corman brought this scene up, and he's like, we're going to shoot a scene where Christine Chapel, I don't even think they had somebody picked out yet. He just said, I want one of these ladies who was in this movie to get assaulted by this grub thing, right? And the director was horrified. The actresses were horrified. Everyone was horrified. And Roger Corman was like, okay, y'all can't handle this, so I'm going to direct this scene. So Betty Boop, Big Eyes, originally decided that she wanted to be, she chose first. She's like, I want to be torn apart or whatever, which is how her character eventually goes. This is kind of skipping ahead. So Christine Chapel was kind of up for grabs. So she's the one that had to do it. Roger Corman directed this scene himself. And when the movie comes out, though, it actually took a long time for them to get this particular scene out, because they had to recut it a bunch of times in order to get a rating where they could actually let this movie be shown, which is why this particular scene is super infamous, not just because it's a rather shocking scene, but also because there's a ton of cuts to it. There's a legendarily amount of cuts to this particular scene in order to get it to pass. So there's prospectively some sort of unrated, uncut version that is floating around the void somewhere that has never been seen. It's one of those things that's kind of interesting that there's sort of this mythos involved with this one scene. And the director, he did say later that this is the scene that sold the movie. Like it's what made it commercially viable. And I'd have to say, this is just an opinion, of course, but it's not the best insect sex scene we've seen this year. Red's making a terrible face. I don't know. I'm just saying. We have another movie that I'd like to cover. Probably, a couple down the way. We gotta give it space from Galaxy of Terror, but there's an Eastern European film. Eventually, we're gonna cover that one because I think I have a lot to say about it. Anyways, it's not the best bug scene. It's certainly shorter.
Well, it's just cheap.
And it feels cheap. And the monster's not great. And you're not entirely sure what's happening the whole time. So she dies. We come back. I think the other crew members come looking for her, and of course she gets incinerated almost immediately. They don't even. Yeah, they don't even ask.
They don't even like. So I have a theory about this.
Okay.
I don't think that they actually ever had the other cast present.
Oh.
And that's why she gets zapped, is because it's kind of like, it's just like a freeze frame. That's why they don't actually come up and check her to see if she's still alive or anything, because it does just look like she's fainted on the floor of this cavern.
She doesn't look dead.
She doesn't look dead. And so it was like really startling when they're like, oh, there's one of our crew members who's dead. Let's just incinerate her. But we don't ever see them with her.
Yeah.
I think that was probably a very closed set kind of scene.
Yeah.
And they didn't have anybody extra.
I hate worms.
So we have the surviving quest members. Okay, Balon's there, Mustache Man. Aluma is the name of Big Eyes, so Big Eyes is Aluma. Kor is the cook. He went for some reason.
Well, I think Kor went because the commander was dead, and I guess they decided they needed a another person.
And then Cabrin is Freddy, so Freddy's there. Freddy, of course, so that actor goes on to play Freddy Krueger in like 20,000 Freddy Krueger films. So Little Friday the 13th. No, Nightmare on Elm Street. Sorry, I just offended a lot of horror people right there. Okay, so here's the thing. I've not seen either Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street. So anyway, so they move on. Probably one of the least interesting deaths is Balon. He gets knocked off the thing.
Oh, by the bug in the dark.
Yeah, it looks like a demon kind of a critter. Yeah, kind of just.
They all look like bugs. There are lots of bugs, except for the one guy who fights himself.
Yeah.
Which made a lot of sense.
So we'll go ahead and skip that direction because Balon gets killed. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. He just stays behind and just gets torn apart. It's whatever.
Yeah, he didn't have to stay behind.
No, they go in through a triangle, which is kind of a fun visual, and they enter into a deeper part of the pyramid. And so you have Mustache Man, Betty Boop, she's still there, and then you have Freddy. So the three of them are kind of like the last ones that are visible. We don't know where the cook has gone at this point. He just kind of disappears. Of course, he'll come back later.
Kind of, evaporates.
So they enter into this kind of crystalline area, which is kind of cool. The glass, it's got some glass effects that are happening. It's a neat set. I think it stands out from the rest of the movie. So then Freddy is facing himself. So you had a thought on that. So what was your thought with that?
Well, just that throughout the whole movie, he's rather insecure. He's always trying to prove himself. And so him facing himself at the end, it was just like, his greatest fear is that he's not enough. And so when his self attacks him and then he kind of defeats himself, it's kind of like he's defeating his psyche that's always telling them that he's not enough. And then as soon as he defeats himself and his self disappears, he's like, wait a second, you're not real. And he's like yelling for his friends because he's like, I figured this out. But then also we're seeing that his biggest critic has always been himself. And so it's not that he's not enough, and other people don't really perceive him that way. It's that he perceives himself that way.
Yeah. Okay, that's Ranger is the name of Freddy. Freddy's Ranger. I don't remember how Ranger dies. Do you remember how Ranger dies?
He never meets back up with Mustache Man and Big Eyes.
So he just disappears.
Yeah, he kind of just disappears. Does he meet back up with Mustache and Big Eyes? Because I remember Big Eyes and Mustache end up back together.
He does.
Because they were all lovey-dovey.
Hang on, I'm pulling it up right now. Okay, so she gets left behind. Okay, that's dumb. I don't understand.
He gets left behind where?
At the okay, so remember so the lady gets pulled apart, okay? And then Freddy and Mustache Man, they stand at the base of the giant stair steps. Do you remember the giant stair steps?
Oh yes, and then the guy starts going up the stairs and the stairs start disappearing.
So Mustache Hero gets separated from Freddy. He goes up he goes up the steps. He's following Core, who's the cook. And there's something weird about Core. Obviously, we know he's, something's going on. We discover that Core is, in fact, the Planet Master with the red head. So now we understand why we have his face sort of veiled in the beginning of the movie. It's because this actor's with us the whole time. We have a revelation about what exactly is happening in this movie. So Planet Master, essentially, he's spilling the beans here. He's telling us exactly what has been happening. He's kind of reframing everything that's been happening in this movie thus far. And he tells us that this movie has been ripping off, at least in sort of a lesser sense, has been taking a lot of inspiration from a particular episode of Star Trek. Of course, everything comes back to Star Trek somehow. The episode is called Shore Leave. This is from the original series, season 1, episode 15. This is the infamous White Rabbit episode. If you've seen it, it's a little Alice in Wonderland. So the twist with that episode in Star Trek is the planet is a sort of an amusement park for some sort of higher life form. So the being has evolved past regular play.
More complex the mind, the greater the need for the simplicity of play.
And this is the way that, these ancient beings, these powerful beings would play, is to come to this planet and would imagine things, and the things that they imagined would come to life. So this is where it's a little bit different with Galaxy of Terror, because in Galaxy of Terror, instead of it being more of an amusement park sort of a thing, This is more of like a training ground for sort of they're the young of this ancient culture to be proven, to face their fears, and to grow into whatever the Planet Master is, so some sort of higher evolved being.
It was my own fear that attacked me, brought to life somehow by his place.
At this point, the Planet Master says you have to face the fears of not only yourself, but also your whole crew. So Mustache Hero has to face the crew. They're all kind of undead, or at least the versions of them appear undead. There's some sort of, recreated versions of his dead crew. Anyway, so they come back and he has to fight them off one by one. What do you think? Is it possible for us to name the fears of the crew? So I think some of them are more obvious. So Captain Trantor would be sort of the fear of reliving this post-traumatic stress situation. Freddy's, like you said quite eloquently, he has to face himself and to overcome his self-doubt, his sort of lack of confidence. Worm Lady.
Worms.
She doesn't like worms. It's Indiana Jones and a snake, I guess. It's the same.
Crystal Guy.
Crystal Guy. So he lives and dies by the crystal. So maybe
he lived by it and he died by it. I guess.
Yeah, but it's not really a fear though.
I don't know. Maybe we don't know enough about his weird crystal religion.
Okay.
It seemed very religious.
Yes.
Because he refused the gun.
Yeah. They have the hand thing that they do where it's like...
Hand thing. Yeah, it seems very like he's like devoted himself to a certain path of life.
Okay. And maybe his path was disrupted and that's where we ended up with...
I don't know.
Okay. That's a thought.
Random side quest. Captain Trantor's name is a reference to the name of a planet in Isaac Asimov's Foundation series.
Oh, we've been watching that.
Ooh.
We're a couple seasons behind at this point, but that's a good series. Would recommend. What is Big Eyes? Basically, she gets pulled apart and then her head explodes. Is it a fear? Is it a psychological fear of like herself and her power and her mental power? I'm not entirely sure what it represents. I don't know if there's a one-to-one. You know what I mean?
I think maybe because of her psychological power, she kind of fears forces that are outside herself.
That's good. Okay, we can roll with that.
It could just be that they just really wanted to rip somebody apart and she was available.
And she didn't want to take off her clothes, so... I think some of them do have like actual character things that make sense, specifically Captain Trantor. A couple of these characters, they just kind of die, and I think it's just the effect that they were able to... Like the
guy who got knocked off the thing.
Yeah, he got knocked off the thing. And the devil knocked him off, and then you have like the guy who gets pulled apart by the tentacles. So we have two different tentacle deaths by the guys.
Yeah.
Commander Ilvar and then Kaz both die. And it's just kind of a thing.
I think the tentacle one kind of makes sense because he's kind of an older guy and he kind of is refusing to let younger people take the lead. I mean, because that's kind of brought up in the movie that he's old.
Right.
So it's like, why are you here?
What are you here?
Why are you here? You're old. Why are you leading? Why are you doing... And so then it's kind of ironic that his life gets sucked away.
Okay. We'll go with that. That's probably better than what the filmmakers actually had in mind.
Yeah, that probably is. We're probably reading way too much in this.
Okay, so Mustache Hero fights the zombified versions of his crew. He wins, of course, and then he becomes the new Planet Master. Whatever that means, we're not entirely sure. He's some sort of ruler, leader. We're not entirely sure exactly what Planet Master is, but he's, Mustache Man is now the Planet Master, and then the movie ends, and that's it. That's sort of that's where it wraps. Is he becomes Planet Master, and that's the end of the movie. Let's talk briefly about a couple of the fun little. So Battlestar Galactica was canceled a couple years prior to this, and so they picked up those uniforms for very cheap. This is a segment of this. This is a segment of the video where we're just kind of throwing out like the things we haven't talked about yet that we just want to throw in.
Do you think the Planet Master has potentially been trying to get somebody to replace him for a while, and that's why the original ship crashed?
Oh, then that's possible. Yeah, I didn't think about that. So maybe the first ship was sent over
supposed to be the first.
Okay, and then no one was able to overcome.
They're like, oh, oops, there's an emergency. Somebody just go fix it. They just keep sending people over there.
Yeah.
Until somebody makes it through the trial so the Planet Master can just be done.
That makes more sense than what the movie gave us. I will say this, so we were probably midway through the movie, and I remember asking, do you think this movie's script was written by a foreigner? Because there are just some times when they would be saying, the actors would be saying dialogue, and I had no idea what they were saying. It just was not, like, they just weren't the right words. Did you feel that way too?
Yeah. Sometimes, like, it was really hard to follow what they were talking about. It's like reading labels that have been translated via Google Translate.
So this has been a fun trip. This has been a fun journey into Galaxy of Terror. I would say it's like any of the movies that I've featured on this channel. It's not for everybody, but I think it does have some merit. There's things to sort of dig into. Bad sound effects being one, great set design being another. This movie has pretty abysmal ratings. I think a lot of people did not enjoy this movie. And it is an Alien clone. There are probably 12 other movies that look exactly like this one, that act a lot like this one. So it doesn't stand out for that purpose, but contextually it's very interesting, and it's interesting to see James Cameron move out of it and then to jump into another Aliens movie to sort of helm the sequels and to jump into Terminator after that. So we do have, Galaxy of Terror to thank for sort of the legacy that James Cameron brings to the table, which is kind of fun. That's kind of a neat thing. Would you watch it again?
Probably not.
Yeah.
I got other things to watch.
Good enough.
It's a laundry folding film. And that was honestly why we turned it on in the first place, is because I had laundry to fold. And
Yeah.
I was tired. And I was like, let's watch. You weren't even present. I just picked it.
It was my own fear that attacked me.
So you're saying this is all a dream? Surprise!
All right, that's all for now. Thank you for tuning in. Good night. And remember, if you're going to have a greatest fear, don't be afraid of worms.